Welcome back, Julia.
Thank you.
Great to have you again. Starting with 19, and the heavens declare the glory of God.
It's a powerful image, isn't it? This poetry that imagines that the heavens or the sky can speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful, and that the firmament, that part of the ancient understanding of the world that holds up the sky, can actually proclaim God's handiwork.
Yes, it's the glory of what has been created has its own language.
And somehow it speaks to us of God. It tells God's glory, not just the glory of itself, but the glory of God.
And then there's at least for me anyway, an interesting shift from talking about the heavens and all of the metaphors that are being used, and then when 7 begins, the law of the Lord is perfect. Suddenly, now we're talking about the law.
It does sound like a subject change, doesn't it? I think, though, in the psalm, those things fit together, and they challenge us to see how God's created order may include, at least in Israel's understanding, how everything fits together, that God's instruction, God's guidance, God's laying out of the path of the righteous is part of God's creation order, and that those things don't stand in tension with each other, but are at least understood here to support one another.
Right. So it's almost like the psalmist starts by celebrating the joy of creation, all that is around us, and the glory of God that's represented there. Therefore, how God keeps order in our world is also to be celebrated. And then it's defined back, as you're saying, in these poetic terms. It's beautiful.
And that integrates it very well. They're both done in very poetic ways. When we're talking about the heavens and the sun is like a bridegroom that rushes out of the wedding canopy. And then the law is something that enlightens the eye. So there's as much poetic attention given to creation and to the law as the other. They fit together really well, beautifully in this psalm.
Right. Now, I could be wrong again, but then there's another subject change, it seems, with this question that's asked. Can people tell how often they offend?
Who can detect their errors?
Yes.
But since we can't know that about ourselves, the psalmist asks God, clear me from hidden faults. So even the things that you know are wrong, or things that you don't know are wrong, the psalmist is asking God to show him, her, what is wrong, and bring that to light so that I can confess it and so that I might be forgiven for it.
Right, so there's an action, there's a process that can fix this.
Which is amazing in the Psalms, and in fact you find it throughout most of the Old Testament anyway, is the Israelite understanding that it is possible to become blameless and to be innocent of transgression once you forgive your sins. Those laws are very clear about how a person goes about absolving him or herself of sin. And again, while this may be a strange notion to some Christian perspectives, it's pretty clear in the Old Testament, the idea that God is gracious and merciful and forgives those who ask for forgiveness.
Therefore, you kind of have to ask.
Correct, and so that's why that beautiful ending is so famous and gets used so often. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable. You wouldn't say that if you weren't aware of the possibility that your words and your meditation might not be acceptable. So you're asking God's help in understanding your motives as well as your words, and to bring those more in line with God's intention for the world.